Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today live. Um, we've done this once before, the Ask Me Anything format, really just holding space to answer live any, general high-level questions that I can help answer um, while on the webinar for your product development or any product technical process related questions. And then also wanted to do things a little differently this time and invite one of my recent clients on to share his experience, what he was looking for coming in, what we worked on, and where they're at right now. So hopefully paints a better picture of what that looks like to work with us, and also just a general experience of professionalizing and commercializing your product. So I do have a little bit of content to walk through beforehand, and just to introduce and rehash for anyone that's familiar, all the services that we do provide and how you can get in touch with us. And then I'll open it up to the floor for any questions you do have. So please don't be shy to drop any questions you have in the chat. Um, and my team will be able to monitor that for me. Okay. So my name is Hailey. A little bit about me. My role at the center is product development. Um, I handle any of your product related questions, requests, projects. But my background is also in food science, product development, and nutrition. I did my education at UC Berkeley, then Oregon State in food science. And then before joining the center here to consult with many different brands and categories of products, I was working primarily on innovation on the brand side. So working in-house for brands to develop their cycles of innovation each year, whether it's new products, new flavors, completely new product formats, reformulation for better nutritional macros, or supply chain changes. So a lot of the challenges that you'll go through, I've been there before with startup brands. And then I've also had some different nutrition, dietitian related experiences that also helps inform health related and wellness trends that come into our food product packaged in food industry. So day to day, what the product development department looks like. I split my time between consulting and advising through the services that we offer, and a lot of the teaching we do through our Ain't program and different workshops. We spend a lot of time testing experiments, trials with you or independently, taking care of it for you on our bench. So if you asked us to work on a formulation or a new project for you, we do spend a lot of time in my product development lab working on that, tinkering for you. And then we do invite you to come and taste samples along that project timeline. One of the a la carte offerings we do is lab testing as well as nutritional labeling. So it's a few day to 1 week turnaround. We do spend a lot of time doing pH, water activity, and nutrition labeling for many, many clients across the state. And we also engage a lot of community groups, from organizations to DOE, K-12, and college students, farmer groups, cohorts as well, coming in to the center to do value-added hands-on activities or product development training, etc. I'm also continuously working on different partnership programs to bring the knowledge and the community closer to you guys, so the launch and the scaling of your product journey isn't so inaccessible, as well as many workshops that we teach on many different topics. But you'll see from our newsletter, if you're not already subscribed, that product development is one of the core topics that we do offer. So a little more about the vision of the product development service is we do a lot of things, but all the through line through it all is to make the resources for developing a product and launching a product more accessible for entrepreneurs in Hawaii and sourcing Hawaii local products. As some of you in the business probably know, it's one of the hardest places to do this, to go on this journey because of many specific challenges we have on island. But I do think that by building community and offering all of these knowledge at a democratized way, we can lower some of that barriers. So one of the key offerings we have is our state-of-the-art shared commercial kitchen, and many of you are kitchen users. So a lot of the equipment we offer does the same serves the same purpose to lower barriers, because to purchase those equipment, it would be a much higher cost for each of the entrepreneurs than to offer it at a share use model. So we do similar things with product development, where when something is a frequently asked question, we host a webinar like this. We also offer wraparound product support, not just I create a recipe for you with you, or fix a recipe for you, and then you're off to the races on your own. As needed, you can always reach out to us to support on how to adapt that new formulation or new supplier needs to your actual operation. If you have issues with actually executing that, it's something that I consult on a daily basis of the smooth transitions of changes. And lastly, just developing viable concept that's rooted in local sourcing. I think that, because of our local agricultural crops, the types of products that will thrive and that are high in demand look a little different than perhaps what you might shop in the mainland, or we have a strong focus on shelf stability because of the lack of cold chain transportation and storage. So those pose specific challenges and requirements in creating products like that. And but once you do commercialize and launch that product, the impact can be much farther and wider, because you can sit on the inventory and you won't need to worry about the shelf life for quite a while. So pretty much to summarize, the scope of what we do here at product development at the center is innovation, renovation, which means reformulation or fixing, troubleshooting for you in any area, including shelf life, including packaging, claims, texture, stability, or transitioning a ingredient that has preservatives, colors, and dyes to be compliant. Those are all considered renovation. We do a lot of education, teaching workshops like this one, as well as validation. So all the testing, all of the process-related advising that we do validates your process is safe. So core pillars of what we do. And then just the menu of services that we have is quite a bit, and then I included the pricing on there. You can also find this if you do come and take a tour or schedule a discovery call. I'll send the PDF version of our fee booklet to you, so you can find that if you do reach out directly. So for new clients, we always offer a 15-minute free intro call. During that call, we take a look at where your stage is at and what your immediate need is, to understand how we can best serve you. So we'll point to all the things that we offer based on your capacity, where you're at, whether you'd like to collaborate or outsource it completely. We point you to how we can best help you, or referrals if you're looking for a service that we can't serve you. So going from there, we offer hourly consultation that can cover anything from innovation, product development, recipe development to compliance, label review, or just, time-based consulting on anything that's relevant. And then benchtop product development, which is a project contract-based modality. You can hire us to do your development of the product. Can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months, but it's hands off for you. And when the project wraps up, you have the packet of information of recipes, formulations, and supplier documents to take and commercialize. And then analytical testing, these are a la carte. And so, like I said, quick turnaround. We offer pH, water activity, and Brix testing, which covers most food product stability parameters. So depending on what your product is, these 3 testings, and you don't need all 3, usually 1 or 2 would be relevant. And we would advise you on what that means, each of the number that's in the results. And it would inform you on how stable the product is, whether it's a time and temperature sensitive product or not. And lastly, well, a couple more things. Nutrition labeling, it's also a la carte. We always sign an NDA, mutual NDA, before receiving any trade information, including formulation, recipe, supplier information. And we use a database approach to generate these nutrition labels that are FDA compliant, that goes on the back panel of your packaging. As small businesses, brands are exempt to have the label if you are selling direct to consumer or within state lines, under, I believe, $100,000 in revenue a year. However, if you plan to go into grocery retail, it is very much advised and professional to have nutrition labels on pack, especially if you are moving towards a custom print label anyway, to include that as a placeholder, as well as other items like UPC barcodes. Those are all retail-ready packaging elements, so we do advise on those. We do have a HPP unit, the high pressure processing, first in Hawaii. I handled client intake and onboarding for this piece of technology. So if your product is appropriate and you are interested, we do a free consult, and then we offer a trial program where we handhold you through getting onboarded with using high pressure processing. And then lastly, something newer that we started to offer end of last year is called the collab. Because not everyone may have the lead time or the budget to do a full contract with us and let my team formulate for you over 3 months. You want to do it yourself to some degree, but need some help, some hands-on help. That's a recurring theme that we hear from a lot of people. So what we started to offer is a half day or a full day collab, where you bring all of your ingredients and your current recipes into my test kitchen, and we iterate together. We design trials, we knock out 10 to 20 versions together, and you have samples to take home. We'll test it on the spot based on what you're trying to work towards, whether it's to extend shelf life or to take out an ingredient or to fix the texture. We'll work towards that, and at the end of 4 hours or 8 hours, you should have something very close to what you're looking for. And then you also learn the standardized process and the way we work, so that you can take that from there and then continue to check back in for support. So that's a much more accessible way to collaborate in terms of a hands-on product development need. So again, one more reminder to drop in your questions in the chat if anything comes up as I speak, but I just have a couple more high-level introduction areas to walk through. So I mentioned we have a high pressure processing unit. This is the crown jewel machine of our center. We have a lot of awesome pieces of equipment that helps make processing much more efficient and helps you scale up in the kitchen as users. But the high pressure processing technology is very special, as because the going through high pressure processing, many products that are compliant can be extended in shelf life or be pasteurized without heat. So depending on what the processed product is, whether it's juice, guacamole, salsa, dips, ready to eat meals like luau stew or sous vide chicken breast, those products can bypass a heat pasteurization step or be extended and or have its shelf life extended 3 to 30 times, depending on the product and the parameters. So we do have the technology offered at our center, and it's not something that you become a kitchen user and can readily access directly. It is, like I said, many very product specific. We would need to go through testing your product for compatibility and then validating that this product will in fact replace heat to achieve the same level of safety. And to do that, we go through a trial program that takes all the guesswork off of you, off of your plate. So some of the product categories that you can find in the stores that you wouldn't even know is high pressure processed include cold pressed juices, smoothies, meat products like sausages, pate, guacamole and avocado products, salsa and hummus, baby food, especially refrigerated baby food, a lot of pet food, ready to eat meals, seafood products, because the high pressure also helps loosen up the valves and helps shuck shellfish. So these are just some of the applications. If you do make a fruit-based or a fresh sauce dip product that you have experienced that discolors or texture, flavor, sensory qualities compromises with heating it, HPP could potentially be an option for you. So we can chat more if you reach out. So we offer pilot plant production as well as testing in terms of trial runs. And then we outsource it to Cornell for microbial lab testing. So you can get on my calendar to discuss HPP specific questions. Okay, so some shout outs to
Hailey,
brand.
sorry
Yes,
to interrupt. We have a question in the chat. What's the turnaround time for pH, water activity, or bricks testing?
yeah, as mentioned, a la carte services, including testing, is 3 to 5 business days. Yeah, so nutritional labels information, if you have everything submitted, it would be 5 business days, so 1 week turnarounds, 3 days for product testing. So you would drop off a sample at our facility Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Attention to Hailey. And you would submit your information. So I first send you a intake form. So information I collect is your date of production, your product sample name, storage condition, whether the product is dry and stored in ambient condition or needs to be refrigerated. And then we would test it and send you back the report. So the report is approved third-party test report for DOH purposes. If your Department of Health inspector requires your lab pH test for your product, you can submit it to us and use our report for that purpose. And so just some products that recently was on big stages, whether it's local TV, local trade shows, national trade shows, and then award-winning products that are our product development client, as well as alumni and kitchen users of brands in our network, just to demonstrate all the opportunity and platforms that we offer to put you in the spotlight as while you work with us to professionalize and improve your product and brands. So I'll skip this part. A couple quick tips before I move on to introducing our guest speaker. I think high level, if you're working on your recipes or products still, keeping your ingredient list simple is important and traceable. So if you can make a product with 4 ingredients, don't make it with 10. If it can be done in one step, don't make it in 5, because as you scale up, a lot of those things will change and need to be streamlined. So if you can picture a way forward towards making huge batches, that's always a great place to start. Then the tweak work, it becomes much easier. And then if you're buying ingredients off the grocery store shelf, just starting to do a Google search on whether those can be offered bulk, or you can trace back to the original source to understand what it might look like to buy whole cases directly, and to have specifications sheet on hand with tariffs and supply chain shortages. That would be really important. So I want to just walk through some case studies that of clients that have engaged with us through different levels of services that we offer. So one example is Honobono, which is a Ainatamekeke alumni that went through our incubator program. They are a wildly popular vegan Japanese cuisine pop-up in town. And they came to us to work on their vegan rice-based ice cream texture. It's delicious, but doesn't freeze well, doesn't last long. It's kind of a pain to scoop in their original rendition. And so what we did is that we did a half-day collab, only took about 3.5 hours, and we reformulated the ice cream-based recipe to be equally rich, creamy, but much more scoopable and easy to work with, as well as withstand the ice crystals and freezer burn a lot better. So more stable over time, so that they can make big batches and do pop-ups without worrying about the logistics as much. So now you can find them at their pop-ups around the island. Another case study is a full benchtop product development project, which over the course of 3 months, our local baby food brand, Pico Provision, hired us to produce and create 3 new flavors in their new product line for stage 3 babies, which is 9-month plus. And they came to us with flavor concepts already. And sometimes clients don't have specific flavor ideas. They want to develop the concept together. So just the scope all depends. And we've helped formulate these 3 flavor concepts into and brought it to life. And now you can find them at Foodland and Longs for these new flavors, and then many more stores for the rest of the product line. So these projects are more than just taking a flavor and then producing something that's tasty. Each brand like yours may have different commitments as a brand or to your consumers. Like, for example, Pico Provision has a commitment to use all local produce and proteins, including bone broth, and never sugar, salt, or preservatives added. So that poses its unique challenges. As well as for baby food, the texture needs to be quite standardized, as well as nutritional guidelines needs to be met. So we work within your parameters, your budget, and your request to deliver a product and formulation. And then the third case study is Farm to Fudge Maui. So Janice, the founder, has been working with us since the inception of our program in many different capacities, and has been one of the first clients to take up on new services, new workshops. So we've consulted together on a few packaging updates. So we review the label and the copy for compliance, because this is a health forward wellness product that is a vegan, better for you fudge. So we want to make sure that there's no health claims made that could potentially be problematic in terms of compliance. And then we also did a half-day collab. So Janice actually flew out from Maui to Oahu into our test kitchen with the data that she has tested many times in her own kitchen. And then we did a full day collab to develop more than 10 iterations towards extended shelf life and stability, because to be able to sell in accounts like hotels and stores, you need more than a few weeks shelf life. The last thing you want is the consumer opening a box of treats and seeing mold on it. So that's something we're working towards reformulating. And then at the end of the collab, she had her recipe finalized with more than 3 months shelf life, which was the goal, without compromising texture and flavor. And so with that new recipe, we redid the nutrition labels, as well as another round of label review. And now you can find her products in all these delicious flavors across specialty retailers across the state. And then lastly, I want to introduce Brandon from Mari's Garden. I don't know if Fred's also online. They're also one of my recent clients. Mari's Garden, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar, is a family-owned farm here in Mililani. And they have this incredible creamy Olena dressing that came out of one of the school projects that they sponsor. And I had the honor to taste it and hear about where they want to take it, which the keyword is shelf stable. And so before we take it shelf stable, we want to dial in the recipe. And so there was a couple of things that we needed to clean up to reformulate to simplify the ingredient list, because the consumer demand short ingredient lists, everything you can pronounce. And on an operational perspective, it's easier for them to execute and source everything. And so we engaged in a half-day collab. It only took a few hours, pretty simple. We reformulated the recipe to be much cleaner. We had the new pH data, and then we took that final recipe to a process authority, which is a food safety expert that will certify your canning process in order to make something like a salad dressing or a sauce shelf stable. So they're going through the final touches of canning the sauce so that you can find it soon enough in a shelf stable format. In the meantime, Mari's Gardens team also took the Better Process Control School, which is a required certification to produce acidified canned food like shelf-stable sauces, dressings, marinades, and they were a Aina Tamekeke Incubator alumni. So today you can find their creamy Elena dressing in its fresh form at Mari's Garden stores, alongside their produce and plants. Hopefully I got that all accurate. Brendan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so yes, I'm Brendan Lau. Thank you, Haley, for the introduction. We are a family-owned business, and our story with the Waihewa Value Added Center is we wanted to develop a dressing for a long time. Years ago, we used to buy dressings and private label them, and then that company stopped operating in Hawaii. So we for the past 2 years we haven't had a dressing, and then one of our managers, Tanya, who actually had to she had to like go take care of her mom who has a health condition now, but she actually went through she was the one that was the alumni of the incubator. And so there's a few of us working on this. She had to leave, so I kind of picked up. And then my dad is actually the one that took the acidified foods course. But our experience has been amazing. I don't think that we would have been able to figure out all the steps that are involved in this process without everyone that's at Waihewa Value Added Center, including Haley and Chris, of course. Um, and all of these items that we went through, when we started, we didn't even know that we had to do them. So that's where we started, and we're on our way to um trying to develop a shelf stable dressing. I mean, actually, we've already got the recipe and everything, so we're just going through the process of getting all of our documentation in order to use the kitchen at the Waihoa Value Added Center. Um, and we should be after we were able to run our first batches there with the new recipe, we should be able to sell to our existing clientele who we already sell vegetable to, which are restaurants and retail stores, grocery stores. Is
Awesome.
that is that everything?
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
sharing. Um, so I'm curious, how did you know that there was demand for this dressing? Or you mentioned that you've been private labeling for dressings, meaning taking existing existing dressing manufactured by others to usually larger scale and putting Mari's Garden label on it in the past. Is it something that your accounts have demanded because you're a lettuce purveyor and the two and two just make sense together? Or was this specific Olena dressing, was there a story with that, or maybe it was a big hit internally?
Yeah, so this dressing, the taste of this dressing is very similar to the dressing we use to white label, except that we've added the Olena. And that dressing was a big hit with all of our retail customers. So we do retail in Mililani, Kailua, and in town on Cook Street. And we've only ever retailed the dressing before this. We haven't really tried wholesale, mostly because of all of these food safety items and the fact that we were white labeling it prior to this, it really made more sense just for us to focus on retailing it. But now that we have the ability to, produce large batches and potentially sell it in a wholesale container like a gallon jug or something to restaurants, um, I think that opens up our horizons a little bit. And another part of this dressing that's a good part of our story is that we work with this school called HTA. It's a school out in Kapolei, and they basically helped us. So they wanted to do a farming project, and Olena is pretty easy to grow, so we decided to go that route. We grew the Olena, and then we actually harvested it with using the students as intern labor. We washed it off, dried it, and processed it into an Olena powder because Olena is only harvested like once a year. So we the powder lasts the whole year basically, and from that we make the dressing. So it was a good project for the kids. It's not done yet because once we go all the way through the process, they'll have a lot of information on how we did it and all of the the costs and how much money we can potentially make, how much we have to try to sell per month. And actually too, that school has a field trip scheduled with the Waiho Value Added Center. So these students are going like full circle. There's not a lot of high schools that I know that can provide that kind of experience all the way from farming all the way to finished product and a wholesale product at that. So that's kind of how this dressing got formulated. HTA is also, we're going to work with them to develop a seasoned like rub, like salt rub that we grow the herbs for here with the students again. So it's going leading to other products as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Great to hear. We're excited to host the HT8 student group. So what was the um, perhaps most challenging product hurdle you've encountered or foresee in the future? One of the things that came in mind is um, obviously, first of all, making it shelf stable, which we worked through already. But with the story and the origin coming from a school farming project, whether the scalability of your ingredients and the processing of that ingredient, like drying and milling, you might see as a challenge.
So we've actually so I'm applying for this grant called VAPG grant, and that's causing us to have to run budget numbers on everything. And so in the beginning, we're thinking we want to make 500 bottles and sell 500 bottles a month, right? So at that rate, we only need actually like 5 pounds of turmeric powder a month. So it's not a lot on that side. The biggest thing that I'm worried about in the future is the liability of the food safety. So that's one thing that concerns me about selling dressing wholesale and then having it spread out far, and far and wide. But the biggest actual hurdle is, it's the budgeting. When you're starting off with one product and you're trying to take that from nothing to wholesale, it's a big leap to make. Thankfully we have the ability to pay for it, but still, as a business, we're attempting to profit at everything we do. So it's very difficult to I think it's a pretty big risk, but I also think that it will be worth it later because I believe that this product is really truly tastes good and that people will buy it. So, we're all just trying to work around that.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think the food safety concern is shared among most early stage entrepreneurs, and the that fear factor of, I know I have a tasty product, but how do I know that, having it sold far and wide won't have issues over its shelf life of potentially getting me in trouble, getting people sick. So that's where on the slide you'll see the process authority. That's what their job is um, a food safety expert, especially when you engage in a specialized process that has higher risk, like canning, like vacuum sealing, like fermentation, like high pressure processing, or any other less traditional, less uh, or more specific processing. We do engage a process authority to certify your entire process through a flow chart with very specific minimum temperatures, minimum hold times that you have to abide by in your production, through batch logs and signing off every batch to have met those required parameters before you release the product into the marketplace. And in that way, it keeps traceability, even if a container, say a dressing bottle got knocked and then the seam got loose, and then the bottle started blowing up or the lid started popping, and the consumer or at a store level, you would know to reject that container. And then as a producer, you can trace back to the batch and identify the root cause in your corrective action. All of that is enabled by, first of all, certifying your process. So you know that what you're doing, if everything goes right, is completely safe. But of course, you can't control things going wrong in the process. But the important thing is being able to pinpoint what the problem is. So we support on connecting you with the process authority, depending on your product, if there is a need. But if you're, say, baking crackers, some of those traditional, cook processes don't require a specialized process review. And then we'd be able to support on that internally. Okay, so maybe some of the last questions. Anything you wish you knew earlier, and then um, any tips for other founders?
I mean, when I started, I didn't know what I was missing. So, I mean, I don't know how I would have known anything earlier, but I would say, yeah, no, all of the information that you need is provided by you, Haley and Chris. So, I mean, we basically, you know, I would say if I could have possibly started sooner with you guys, that's what I would have done.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for spending time with us too, Brendan. I'm sure it will be very helpful for others. And then where can we find your produce and dressings right now? I don't know if I quoted that correctly. Is it just at the
Oh,
retail stores right now?
yes, it's only at our locations right now.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and we're still making the version that needs to be kept refrigerated, right? So
Yeah. Yes.
it's not our final product. We're actually still working on we're gonna change to a plastic pouch as well.
Awesome.
And that's still being developed. Designing a new label and everything for that. which is a hefty cost, which is why we say we have to sell about 500 bottles a month to start just to feel okay. So yeah, the cost of those things are high. But yeah, so
Well, the
that's what
pouch will take less space in your storage. It's stackable.
true.
Um, yeah, well, when you have the label design ready to go, you can feel free to send it over for a label review.
Oh yes,
Yes.
thank you.
But thank you for, you feel free to log off if you need to. Thank you so much, Brendan.
Thank you guys.
Okay. Okay, well, we have like 15 minutes remaining. I want to open up the floor to see if anyone does have any questions that you want to ask live. Feel free to unmute yourself or drop in the chat. Okay.
Hey, Hailey, this is Byron.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for this short and sweet intro to you guys.
sure.
I've had a idea for a while now and need some smarter, more able people to help me bring it to fruition. So I'm kind of curious about how to sign up for the consultation
Yeah,
with you guys, so I can kind of come in and show you what we're thinking about.
sure. You can feel free to email us, sorry, on our website, leeward.hawaii.edu slash WVAPDC. You can schedule a tour there as well as find our email to send a direct no. And then I would follow up with or if you want to type in directly this 15-minute intro call link, then we can touch base directly there. So after we touch base to see how we can work together, usually the next steps is a mutual NDA for a new innovation project. So we can go from there, but you can find all the information on our website as well to send us email notes, or our email is vapdc@hawaii.edu.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so Maybell asks, which usually come first, nutritional label or SKU? So I'm assuming you're talking about barcode in the back. So both can be together. I know Maybell's product pretty well, so baked goods, banana bread, and single serve individual packaged treats. So a lot of times what you need to sell direct to consumer is just a product logo. But to get more professionalized and ready for retail, you would need um, a full list of required retail information that's required by the FDA. That includes your standard of identity. For example, if it's banana bread, but even if you have a fun name, you would need to have, say, Maybell's most tasty banana bread. That's the standard of identity. The bottom would have net content, both weight and if your liquid volume as well. The back would have nutrition label chart, ingredient statement, allergen statement, and manufacturing information. And then somewhere on the back right hand lower corner would have your UPC barcode. So until you go there, you might be doing a front sticker and a back sticker. And if you are a cottage seller, your back label just needs to meet DOH requirement, which includes the ingredient list and a made in a home kitchen non-inspected by DOH and your email or address, right? But if you're trying to get ready for retail, the full list of what I just mentioned will apply. But if you're working towards that, because it's much easier to design on a lot of real estate on a full printed box or pouch than multiple stickers everywhere. So you can always start with your label and product name, and then in the back, nutrition and ingredient list. So a simplified version that includes a nutrition label for your consumers' awareness. And then when you get ready for a full all-around printed label to include a placeholder area for a barcode, and then you can go and purchase the barcode at a website called gs1.org. for your company. So in short, I would
regular milk, but only
Somebody.
facing HC. Cashews or almonds. Almond, peel. Cashews actually contain toxins. Kiwi
Sorry.
or banana.
Who it
Kiwi.
is.
Bananas are okay if they're unripened.
So in short, as you're getting ready towards whichever packaging format it is to be custom printed all around, whether it's a printed box or a pouch, that's when you can meet the full requirement list, including barcode and nutrition label. Until then, you're always welcome to consider putting a skinny version of the nutrition label in one of your stick-on stickers. That could be an option, because usually we see the nutrition label as like a vertical rectangle chart that's kind of bulky, but there are other formats that are FDA compliant that are skinnier, so you can potentially have a skinny long label. But this is not a requirement at your stage. What I suggest is start thinking about the kind of packaging you want if it's fully printed, and then move towards that. Of course.
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so let's say we're ready for retail. We have all our sales sheets. We're done with all that. Do you know how long the retailer is ready? It's, what am I trying to say? Is willing to wait for us to, like, what the lead times are? Do you know, like, possibly, or is it according to them how long they're willing to wait? Let's say we're ready, we have our sales sheets, we're like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. So do you know how long lead times are, and then how do we work with that?
As in fulfillment? Like
fulfillment, that's the word. Thank you.
yeah, so this is a little bit more on the doing business side of things, but
yeah,
in general, it's very rare to be able to work with a retailer
right away
when you don't have inventory yet.
Okay.
That said, there's plenty of people shopping their idea around, and then getting their future customers interested and hooked and want to work with them, even though it's just a dream still, and then they may need to fund their work with a co-packer to do its first run. It doesn't the product isn't produced yet, and they are able to sell their idea, which means that they're really good at selling. So that can happen, but usually you're not able to get someone to order before you produce. So it's not like, but it's usually for more established retailers, not a made to order situation if your product doesn't already exist. Of course, you can, somebody can cut you a big PO and you schedule your production accordingly. But in terms of it would need to be fully launched, tastable, testable, probably sold at like direct to consumer already before you get, wholesale customers. But when you're talking about lead time with, an existing product, if they say want to launch you at FarmLink, and you can decide on the lead time you give them in terms of especially local stores. What I suggest is talking to brands that are already in certain stores, how they structure their sell sheets in terms of like order lead time, right? Because, for example, some of my clients that are selling to FarmLink and Down to Earth, they decide I need 2-week lead time, because they're really making it to order at our facility.
Right.
But that can change very drastically if you're working with chains. And it may be a conversation. So this is a little bit beyond my scope, but I'd say that talking to other brands and talking to the contact you have at the retailer level is the best strategy to understand how they work, to understand, how do you need to structure production around it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Awesome. Okay, thank you, Naomi, for dropping in some information. Vanita, do you have a question? I
I
saw
sure
that.
do.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
You
I know
might
we
remember
posted.
from the current cohort, I'm doing chutney, and I'm in Kauai, and I'm planning to just kind of go with the perishable at the moment until I'm able to figure out the right equipment. Can I just do the old-fashioned canning until then? Is that like legitimate? Is that like okay to do? Because I want to make sure that I can do something that allows the product to have an extended shelf life. And I don't want to be like, hey, it's good for like a week, because it's just open it up and then it's just for a week. So is that considered okay in
Yes.
the
Mhm.
DOH rule book?
Yes. That is a great question. Let me pull up something.
Okay.
Cottage. So what I check is the cottage food law in for Hawaii. So the Homemade Food Act. Let me follow up with you. I think it's
Okay.
hard to multitask right now. Let's talk about jams because chutney usually is in the same category as jam
Yes.
if you are doing a very traditional process. And when we start to talk about reduced sugar or using ulu,
Yeah.
everything can change because
Right.
the reason why jams, jellies, and chutneys usually are in the same category and can be considered a homemade food, less reduced or low risk, potentially hazardous, is because what defines a jam is so high in sugar that the water is not free to grow bacteria and yeast and mold.
Okay.
And that's why, the homemade cottage food guidance will have you do like spoon test or water bath or, traditional techniques that properly cans, assuming what's inside is a traditional recipe in a sugar ratio that is sufficient. So if you want to
Okay.
mess with taking out, reducing sugar, testing is necessary. So it's affordable. You can mail a sample to us. We can test the water activity and pH to understand if this fits into the jam category. If it fits into the traditional jam, jelly, chutney category, you can do that old-fashioned style, following homemade cottage food rules, and produce out of your home kitchen or commercial kitchen, whichever you'd like. But if the product is higher in water activity, that will render it perishable unless you hot fill it or can it properly. In that case, it essentially depends on what you put inside. If you don't put enough sugar, essentially, it could make it fall outside of what's allowed for you to do old-fashioned style homemade.
Okay.
And then I would let you know, hey, the water content's a little too high. You either consider adding this much more sugar or take the acidified canning course, connect with our process authority, and then, produce a canned product. But there are quite a few chutney makers locally and, in the mainland that are doing it old-fashioned style. So it just depends on what your recipe looks like.
Okay. Yeah, so mine is definitely in the savory category. So there's actually no added sugar. So I guess I will have to really look into that. And
it
just
sounds
a
like
quick,
it would be a canned product. Yeah.
it would be a can,
It would need to go through proper canning if it's
proper canning.
no added sugar. Yeah. If
Okay.
there's not enough
Okay.
sugar.
And then, I remember you had mentioned about, how like the pH level has to be, I think it was under 4.2. Like if I need to test that, is that what you're saying? Like I'd have to send a sample to get tested?
Yeah, you can get your own pH meter
Kit?
as well
Oh,
for future production and
okay.
QA. But to get to certify and get permitted, you need a third-party report. So just one time, I need to test it
Okay.
one time, or any other lab if you can find one in Kauai. And then in the future, as you make batches, you'll need to test it yourself. So I would get an Amazon pH meter. I'll send you a recommended one, about $50. I
Okay.
think a Para is
Okay.
one of the brands that I like to recommend. But
Okay.
if you email me, I'll email you the
Okay.
recommendation.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. So if you add any acid vinegar or half citrus fruit, it should be in the right pH range. It's not hard to get to 4.2, especially if
Yeah.
it's savory. So it's
Yeah,
you
that's
would
kind of the stuff I'm trying to avoid is adding anything. It's literally just like vegetables and just, the doesn't have anything really added other than the ulu, since I'd mentioned that to you earlier. It's just like, tomatoes, garlic, onions, like all of that stuff. And it's very thick, but again, that doesn't mean anything, right? It still needs to be tested. And because my preference would be to use, if you were like, hey, you got to add some acid, I would say, can I test it with tamarind? Can I test it with like mango powder? I wouldn't use vinegar because that's just not part of
Yeah, tamarind could work. Anything that
yeah.
brings the pH down, and tomato
Okay.
could bring it down too. Just
Yeah, I
depends.
mean that's the majority of my recipes. So tomato is kind of the majority of what I'm doing. So
Yep. So that's why tomato has to go through the same canning requirement steps to make a tomato sauce, or pasta sauce or tomato puree or anything like that. But if you make a tomato jam, which we had one of our alumni do in a traditional jam ratio where it's mostly sugar, she may call it chutney or jam, then she can do it in a homemade food setting without going through all the canning requirements, which is not crazy. There's many canned food, canned sauce producers across the country. It's actually one of the more straightforward processing you can take to market as a shelf stable product. I think it's intimidating because we're talking about HACCP plans, but we're here to support. We have all the templates. Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. So I think we're at time. If there's any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us through our website at vapdc@hawaii.edu, or if you need the links, it is right here. Okay.